Hi, thanks for joining me today. The card that you're looking at is actually the birthday card that I made for my mom recently, and I borrowed it back from her because I wanted to share another really neat technique with you. I zoomed in on the stamped portion of the card because I'm hoping that you can see the great texture that is on the white panel that I stamped on. It looks like if you remember the mulberry paper that Stampin' Up used to sell, it kind of looks like that. It looks like a really nice sort of artisan handmade paper. It's a great look. And this is the filter paper technique. This is a technique I learned from another demonstrator. Her name is Jackie Hart. And this is a really great technique, and I think you're going to like it. You may have seen other people do similar techniques with tissue paper, but for today's video, I'm going to use the Creped Filter Paper from Stampin' Up. This is a product that was new in last year's spring catalog, 2013 spring or occasions catalog. And it is in the main catalog, the 2013-2014 main catalog, and it has not been retired, so we will see it in the new catalog coming out very soon. This is what it looks like when you get it. You get a couple pieces that are long, rectangular pieces, and a couple pieces that are the circles, and I feel like this is kind of an overlooked product. I feel like it sort of got lost in the big catalog. So I'm going to show you a really cool technique, and the reason that I like this technique better than doing a similar technique with tissue paper is because this is more of a, it's almost like a light coffee filter weight to it, and it's more substantial than tissue paper, and it holds up a little bit better to do this technique. So you'll notice that one side, when you get it, you'll notice one side is sort of smooth and a little bit like shiny almost, and the other side has a nice rough texture to it that sort of feels like a coffee filter, and we're going to be using that rougher side. So let's go ahead and get started on this technique. So I'm starting out with a piece of Whisper White, and the piece that I used on my card measures 2 3/4 by 4 inches, and I'm using the Stippled Blossoms stamp set. This is in the main catalog, and it's not one of the retiring sets, and this technique works really, really great with any two-step stamping sets. You're going to see there's a little 2 image down here, and basically what that means is that you have the opportunity with that set to layer 2 images or 2 stamps to create a complete image. In this case, it's sort of the base of the flower and then the image that goes on top that has the shading and, you know, makes it more of a complete and realistic image. And any set that's like that works especially great for this technique. Also, I'm using Strawberry Slush and Raspberry Ripple today as sort of my tone-on-tone colors for the two-step stamping. Raspberry Ripple is one of the retiring in colors from 2012 to 2014. I am not sure if there's any available anymore. It may have sold out, but I'm still going to go ahead and use these colors today because they're the colors that I used for this card that I'm using as my sample. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the base images of my flowers here with the Strawberry Slush ink. Oops. And be aware when you're doing this technique that whatever the base image that you stamp directly on your Whisper White, whatever color you use is going to come out significantly lighter in your finished project. You can see this color here is actually Strawberry Slush, I promise, but you can see this color looks a lot different than this color. Now, one important tip here is you really want to let this portion of your stamping dry completely before you move on. If you don't, there's a good chance it's going to smudge, especially if you're using the new style of ink pads that are really juicy. So I am actually going to leave this here, and I'm going to walk away for a little while and let this air dry. If you want to heat it with your heat tool, you can do that. I prefer to just do steps like this well in advance and just leave them alone for a little while. So I am gonna go do something else for a while, probably gonna do some laundry, not very much fun. But anyway, I will be back in a little while and we'll finish this up. All right, I'm back. So my piece that I stamped on, my Whisper White, is hopefully now completely dry. And I also cut a piece of the Creped Filter Paper that is just a little bit bigger than the stamp piece. And that's important that it's a little bit bigger. And you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to put some scratch paper down, and now what you're going to do is take your filter paper and crumple it up. And you want to be careful not to rip it, but this is why I like this paper better than tissue paper for this technique, because this paper stands up to this a little bit better than tissue paper. So crumple it up really well, open it up, take a look, give it another crumple. Don't be afraid to really smush it up. Okay, and then when you're ready, you're going to open it back up, but you don't want to smooth it out completely. It's important that you keep some of those creases in the paper, okay? Now you want to take a glue stick and cover your stamped piece completely. This is where it gets a little bit messy, and this is where if your stamping isn't really dry, you're going to smudge your ink. So that's why we really let this dry for quite some time. Make sure you get your edges and your corners. Okay. And now, let me cover up my glue stick here. I'm just going to, starting at one side, carefully smooth the filter paper over top of my stamp piece. But remember, don't smooth it out too much. You want to preserve that texture. Okay. Just make sure that's stuck down really well. And you can see how awesome that texture looks. Doesn't that look great? I love how this looks. Great, great look. Okay, and then once your glue dries a little bit, you can just go around the outside and trim off that extra filter paper. But I'm going to show you the next step of the stamping. I'm going to get my stamp set back out, and this time we're going to use the shading images that go over top. This is the second step of the two-step stamping. And this is where you want to use your darker ink. Now, I have a really hard time lining things up, so hopefully I can get this lined up pretty well. I'm just going to ink up my stamp, and we're going to stamp right over top on that textured paper. Oh, not bad. Got that lined up pretty well. Okay. And now I'm just going to do the same thing on my smaller flowers. That one's a little off, but that's okay. That's the cool thing about this technique, is it's really forgiving if you don't get everything lined up perfectly. Now, I'm only using the second step for my leaves, and I'm using Pear Pizzazz. I liked how this looked. I didn't feel like I needed the solid leaf underneath, but it's your choice. If you want to do that, you certainly can. And I'm just going to go in, let's see, and just kind of randomly, wherever I feel like I need some leaves. I'm not worrying too much about if it's overlapping. And we'll just go in and stamp some leaves. Okay, and then just stamp my greeting in the top here. And again, here's what my finished card looks like. I used chocolate chip and the rich razzleberry cardstock to layer, and again, I'm sorry, I don't know if that rich razzleberry is still available in the ink or the cardstock. This is the scallop trim border punch, which is also retiring and is one of my favorites, and as of right now I believe it is still available. And I also stamped the En Francais background stamp, which is also retiring, and I'm really upset because I just bought it and I love it. But that one also, as far as I know right now, is still available. So if you want either the punch or the cool script background stamp, place an order now, get those while you can. And thank you very much for joining me for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed this technique. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to let me know. And until next time, happy stampin'. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.